name is Martin Carlberg, and I work at OOPS in Sweden, and I'm going to talk about what kind of application we have done and a little bit what kind of stuff we use to build it. And the thing we have built is an apartment broker system for the city of Göteborg, and it's actually one part is a web site where a lot of people who want to rent an apartment that is owned by the city of Göteborg can do. And we have 108,000 members that are part of that has registered to be able to rent an apartment. And there is also on the other side landlords. Some of them are city owned, as I said, and there is a lot of private landlords too that use this system. And what we have is a website and also an office application, and the office application is written in Cappuccino, and that application is used by the landlords and also by the people of the city of Göteborg who managed it. And we have a back end which both the website and the Cappuccino application talk to, and it goes down to the database and store information and so on. The application we have is not as large as our French guys here, but it's kind of mid-size application, you can say. We have a lot of different table views and stuff that they need to fill in and so on. And what they do is actually they add an ad for their apartment, and there is kind of complex stuff you can add in there, but I'm not going to go into exactly how the application works. Here is another example of the application with the table view and all that stuff. And as you can see, we are using a different theme, not the Aristo default theme. We have done it ourselves, and so it looks a little bit different, but it shows that it's possible to have a different look at the application. We're gonna go in and look at a little bit more on how we built the office application, and of course we, as everybody should, we try to build in modules and with frameworks and all that stuff. And today we're gonna actually look at one specific part of the application that we have built as a framework, which we call light object framework. And it's kind of generic framework that you call a ORM, which kind of binds the database structures, the tables and the rows and the columns and so on, up to the objects in the application. And it's inspired by core data and also the enterprise object framework that was developed by Next and used in web objects, and also in Cocoa before core data. And how it works, we actually have two different things that are the main part in the framework, and we have an object context that will track all the objects in your application. And also we have an object store which communicates with a backend that fetches up the data from the database. And I did a little, as you can see at the bottom of the page, you have the database which stores different tables. I have two examples here. You have a person table with persons. You have name and phone number maybe and so on those. And you have an organization table. And in the middle, the light object framework will try to map that to objects in your application. So up there you have the person object and the relationship to the organization object. So it will map everything for you, and so you can use that in application in a very nice way. And here the object context is looking is working closer to the application to check out the objects and so on. And the object store is the one that's going to talk to the backend and to the database. And the best thing to do is actually do a demo. So I'm going to do a kind of scary thing, a live demo. We're going to create an application here together. And I have basic Cappuccino installation here. And let's see, is it big enough? Maybe a little bit bigger? Too big. Very good. We can call it we're going to use the cap command and create a new project here. We're going to use the nib application template and call it CappCon person. So we do that. It creates the project, and we're going to go into that. Go in directly in the frameworks here. So as you can see in the frameworks directory, you have the basic Cappuccino frameworks. Now I'm just going to add the light object frameworks to this one here. And I also going to do a link. Oh, no, sorry. So now I added a light object dot framework, the name is. And usually I call it dot framework because Xcode is going to have, it's going to be easier for Xcode to know it's a framework. And also I do a soft link here because light object is usually the name we do when we without the dot framework when we do Cappuccino frameworks and so on. So okay, here is Xcode cap, and as we saw before, it will help us create all the or convert all the zip files and so on. So we're going to open it here. That's the new one. Okay, we're going to open it in Xcode. As you can see, we have a regular Cappuccino project here. I'm going to add the light object framework. No. Yeah, there it is. And as we called it, it has to be named .framework for Xcode to recognize it as a framework. That's why I had to call it .framework. And we're going to do some. I want some syntax coloring. We're just going to do the Objective-C. We're going to add thanks. I'm going to also add I have built a special object store that's going to run against the backend here. So let's save that, and we need to add. So now I'm going to build a model file, and Xcode has a really nice editor for building models. So we add a new file, we do a data model, we put it in the resource folder, and that was easy to. The screen is a little bit too small.
Maybe I
You can? There we are. We're gonna bring down the size here a little bit. There we go, a little bit better. The size is good, although. Okay, we do it like that. We're gonna add a little bit too big everything here. Okay. We're going to add an entity. We call it person. Over at the other side here, I can enter the class. What kind of class do I want to represent this object in my application? I can do any kind of any class myself there, but I'm not going to type anything here, and it will be just a regular dictionary instead. So we're going to leave it like that. We add an attribute. We need a primary key. We're going to do integer something. It should not be optional. No default value. We add, say, first name. That should be a string. We add last name. we do a string there too. Okay, that's fine. We have our first little table here. We're gonna save in the database. We do save, and we are done there. We need to not a recent file. Okay, let's was a little bit too small this here. Let's open the zip file and close the navigator again, so we get some more space. Okay, the zip file, a little bit small, but okay. We need to add some objects here. We're gonna add the object context. Here, and we need to have the object store, and that was the LO backend object store. I think we need to make a bigger screen here. Let's see if we can do that. It's going to be better. Can you see anything? Almost, yeah. Okay. So I've added the object context, the object store, and connected them together. These we're going to remove. We don't need those. We're going to add an array controller. An array controller is an object that's gonna help us control our array with objects, and it will make sure which one is selected, what kind of filtering we have on it, what kind of sorting, and all that stuff. We need an LA array controller because it will need to be connected to the object store too. Then we need to do a table view. We do first name in the first column, last name, the first name column. We're gonna use bindings here. So the value of this one, we bind it to the array controller, the arranged objects. That's the objects that are filtered and sorted and all that stuff. And we put the attribute name first name. We do the same on the other one, so we have the last name there. we need to also tell the array controller that what we are controlling here is an entity and the entity name is person. So now we have done an application, and what we're missing here is the backend. So I have a backend here that I created, and it actually is written in Objective-J. The thing was, in our project we have one in Objective-C. It's much more complex and so on, but to make this demo was easier to have a smaller, more compact one. So this one is written in Objective-J. It runs on Node. And what I've done here is I have also on this machine I have Postgres SQL. So this backend talks to the Postgres SQL database with just regular SQL. So what we need to do here is we need to create a database, and we do that with the create DB command, and I'm going to use the user Martin and call the CappCon. You can do CappCon person. We call that the database. We give it a password there. Okay, so the database is created. Now we need to start the backend here, and what I need to do is I need to tell the backend where the model file is. And also we want to run against the database. And I have a lot more options on here. So we have the database is CappCon person, the user is Martin. I had added verbose so we can see actually a little bit more what's happening with the backend. I also added so it will verify the model against the database. So because if I have a database that's not looks the same as the model, nothing will work. So it will tell us if something is missing and so on. And I also added the alter option that will actually create the SQL needed to create or change the database so it actually looks like the model describes it. So when I start this backend here, he asked for the database password. It will say here the sequence for primary key is not in the database. The entity person is missing in the database. But it will also add the SQL that will create these the table and the sequence and so on, and start the web server. So now the database corresponds to the model that we described earlier. So let's start our application. What I also have on my machine here is I've set up Apache web server. So it's I have an Apache web server that runs both the backend and this directory, where CappCon directory I have, so I can just type this directly in here. So we're loading our application, and hopefully I've not forgotten anything. I haven't, but I have. What we see here is the table view, but we have nothing in it, and we can't add anything. So we have to go back and add a couple of buttons. We actually need to fetch something. We need to be able to insert something new. Should be nice. Maybe we should be able to remove something too. Let's line this up a little bit. There you go. What we do is the array controller has some actions here. We have fetch. We bind that to this button. We have insert. We have remove. We save it. We go back and we reload it. Now we have these buttons here, and hopefully, if I have not forgotten anything, we could, if we do fetch, nothing happens. Yeah, but the SQL will, we should get some SQL there. Let's see what I forgot. We have the person entity. Let's see what's. That's okay. What else? Let's check the model file. This is very strange. Oh, let's see. I'll try the test application I did earlier. That will do. I forgot something. Let's check the okay, let's continue with this test application I did this morning instead then. Okay, so when I do the when I do the fetch, hit the fetch button, you can see here in the back end it will select all from the person table, and as we have no objects in there, we'll not see anything. But what we can do is we can add line here. And you can see here in the back that we are inserting stuff at the same time. I can do Martin, I can, it will update it, I can do my last name, and so on. And I can add another one. And so on. So here we actually created an application with no code at all. We talk to the backend, which talk to the SQL database, and we are able to get everything to work. And if we just reload the application and do fetch again here, everything comes up like this. Let's add a little bit more action to this. Let's do it a little bit bigger. Let's put that down a little bit. We have a predicate editor in Cappuccino too, and we can just add in here, so we can do a compound. That sounds good. Willow and the Nord sounds good. And here we have the attribute first name. We're going to use that, so it's possible to search for that. We have last name. That one we can remove. We have equals, not equals. We can do like, maybe we do it something like that. And what you do here is actually the predicate editor. We can bind the value from the predicate editor. It will produce a CP predicate that will, and we bind it to the array controller, which has a fetch predicate like this. And we reload the application. Always the cache. Oh, we have to tell this one to not scale this much. It will take over the whole screen. Oops. There we go. And also we need, usually I do this in, we need an add a line there, but I usually do that in, oops, in code, but I don't want to do any code today. Add row. And we bind add row. We put this button will add a row to the predicate editor. Okay, we save it, we reload. We can add a row here. We say first name is, or like, maybe you can say M star. And we can do fetch here. No. can do a fetch here, and we can see here in the back end here, it creates the correct SQL from the predicate here. We don't support, this backend doesn't support every kind of predicate you can have, but some of them at least. Here you can have any or all and so on, and we can add more lines here and so on. And that's pretty neat. But I want to continue, show you a little bit more what we can do. We can also do put the predicate on. We can fetch all the rows instead of just a few rows here, and we can filter it in memory too if you want to. But we also have the ability to tell the array controller, prepare the content from the beginning. So, and I'm just going to remove this one here, the predicate editor, and we move this up again here. And what it does is, when it says prepare content, it will automatically go out through the framework into the backend and say, give me all the rows you have for this entity. We can add some nice stuff here too. We can do each column here. If we give it an identifier, we can just call it anything, but let's call it first name and last name. And also we give the table name. We can say here, give it autosave name, which is a string, and we call it just person. There, no, not key path. There we go. We can also add the sort key here. We of course want to be able to sort the columns, so we just say the first name will be sorted by first name and the last name by last name. That shouldn't be anything strange. And this will show a little bit how nice the table views are. And what we can do here is actually sort by clicking on the column names here, so to get it sorted. You can also change the size of the table view here. You can actually tell them, I don't want the first name to be the first column, I want it to be the second one. And I told the table view to save name. It will actually save your settings here as in the browser. So when I reload the application here, it's still there, which means if you with this browser set up some kind of what kind of sizes you want in your columns and so on, it will save it for you. And this you get all free from Cappuccino. It's just a little bit about table views and how nice they are. Okay, let's continue here. The model here, we're gonna let's add another entity. We're gonna add an organization. We're gonna add strange. There you go. It's Xcode. Primary key we need. It's always nice to have. We add just a name for the organization. Oh, I did wrong there. See if undo name. We do that as a string. We want to add a relationship here. Then we need some kind of organization foreign key. Oh, it's a long name. Let's do that a little bit bigger. We do integer 64. We add a relationship here. There we go. The destination is organization. We don't have the inverse yet. Okay, we add persons. We do a too many relationship from organization to person, and the inverse is there too. Okay, so now I have set up. We can look at it like this also here. So what I've done here is I set up two entities, person and organization, and I have one relation from person to organization, and organization has too many relationship to the person. We're gonna need to add a new table view here. And let's start with the array controller. We need an array controller for, we can put names on the array controllers. We say person, array controller. We call this one organization. Has to be LO. Array controller, should be entity. It's organization entity name. We do prepare content too, so it will fetch the data directly for us. We do the table view, put it here, looks nice. We do just one column. We call it name. We'll add oops, there you go. We do the binding to the organization array controller and the name property. We want to use the sort key name, of course. We want to have it in an identifier, something. We also do the how to save name, it's a string, organization, so it will, oops. It actually doesn't matter what I call it though, but so it will save the column sizes and the location and so on for us. And we want it to be, yeah, now I know what was the wrong thing here. I used view-based table instead of this one. Let's see, name, We need buttons. We can just, that one we don't need anymore. We do like that. We duplicate those, put them down here. We need to insert, remove. Oh yeah. We have to restart with the actually the correct model file. It's the test2. So what the, now when I started it here again, it will see that the model and the database doesn't correspond again here. So it says the table organization is not available. We have a new column, organization foreign key, in the table person, but it will create all the SQL that makes the database correspond to the model again here. So now we're up and running, we don't need to do anything. And actually I don't really need to restart the backend, because when the first thing the application will always do is fetch the model from the backend. And whenever we fetch the model from the backend, it will validate the model again and see if anything is new has arrived in the or been added into the model. It's selected. We haven't got the, let's see here, why prepare content. Yeah, I haven't, it doesn't know about the object context. There we go. It's always something. Now we can see here in the back end, it will select from the organization and the person table. So we can add oops, we'll remove that one. And maybe Disney. Okay, now we need to be able to, now let's restart that. So now we have two tables here. We're going to do some more changes here. We're going to introduce an object controller. Not necessary to use, but an object controller. What I want to do here is I want to do a detailed view of the person entity. So when I select one row here, we can go in and have a detailed view. What we do is we remove the editable state for the different columns here, so I can not edit the fields directly in the table view. I want to do that in the detail view instead. We have the content object. We bind it to the person array controller selections. So whatever object is selected in the array controller will be the object controller will control. We do some text fields here. Do it like that. Do labels. Your first name, last name. We bind this value of the text field to the object controller there, and the first name, and here we do the last name. We want to do a pop-up here to do the organization. And what we do here is actually we bind the content of the pop-up button to the organization array controller. And it's arranged objects. That's just enough. And the value of it, that's actually what every line here is going to contain. So we put the name of the organization as every item, so to speak, or the text on every item. And we also do the selected object should be the object controller's organization. As we put up the organization relation in the model, it will know it's a relationship here. So let's see if it works. Okay, so now I can click here. The text field will update. I can also choose my organization is oops. That's Disney. This is Disney. And you see the pop-up will correspond there. I will add a little bit more there. We'll make it a little bit bigger. We can also add let's see where we add that. Is it here maybe? We do insert a null placeholder. When we don't select anything, we have null in the database, we can tell it what should the placeholder be. Let's see, I think we should do it, I don't remember. We'll try that one with no station. We'll see if it's that one. No, it was not. We should do it there then. I don't always or never remember which one it is. Okay, so here we have, if I don't want to choose it, anything, I can just select the no organization instead. So here we have all these different, we can also add, let's move this a little bit over there. We create The table view is over there. We add an extra column. And we couldn't see that one, obviously. There it is. There we go. The organization, and we bind that to person array controller organization dot name. Okay, now we can see also in the table view exactly the name of the organization here. So we can see I have no organization. We put it like oops there. I can have, and the nice thing is if I go down here and change this, all the bindings will update everything in my application. So all the bindings are working back and forth here. And you can also see that all the changes I do, all the SQL is being created here. So now I'm a little bit late here, but I'm gonna just do one more thing here. We're gonna add 2 buttons. I can go on and add more stuff here for hours, actually. We do a save button, revert button, and we have the object context here, and we have the an option on the object context if we want to do the auto commit. The auto commit is whenever we change something, we will commit everything down to the database directly. But I can choose here and say no to this one when it's not clicked here. It will not commit everything down to the database. And what this is, what I need to do here is actually bind, no, there we have them. I have a save action and also revert action here. So I can add these buttons to the object context. We save everything here, we reload it, we have 2 new buttons. No, I have to change it there. If I add something here, we can, everything is changed in memory, so to speak. But if you look here, nothing is committed down here. So I can remove Mickey Mouse here, I remove Donald Duck, I change my first name to something else too. And if I do revert, everything comes back, because the object context recorded every changes you made to it, so you can replace all the attributes or remove the objects you inserted and so on. Or if I want to do the changes here in this object and the name of the organization, we add some other stuff here, more O's, should always be nice. And we do save here, then all the SQL is created to make the changes. So we have the options to both have the auto commit on or not. We do want to have lunch, so I'm gonna just show you. I did a project here a couple of days ago that's a little bit bigger. It's I call it order items. I can show you the. I had to add a little bit code. I added one class because I want to do a total price here and add or to and have some calculations here. Yeah. Let's quit the back end. Let's start it with order items. Let's the database. Let's see what one has. Order item maybe. It's a little bit more, it's not that much more, but here I have 4 entities. I just made, I have customers, I have items, I have my orders, and what I can do here is I actually, we can do a new order here. Oh, we have to put it there. CappCon order, we call it. The customer is IBM. I can add order items here. I can add, I need 5 of something. I do the Mac Pro, I like those. We have a price here and we have the total sum here, and to get the total sum I can't do that in Interface Builder, so that's why I needed to create the class order item in the code so I can add do the multiplication there. I can add more stuff here. 3, let's order some MacBook Pros too. No, there we go. And so on. And here you see you can actually create a whole application with almost no code at all, and it's really powerful. And the table views, as you saw, you have the sorting, you have the adjustable column sizes and so on, and everything works. I mean, if I change the Mac Pro price here to a little bit more. Didn't I have a Mac Pro here? No, I didn't. Okay, let's change it again down there. So everything changes. Everything is connected with bindings. So it's pretty amazing using that. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. Yeah, that was the so that's the light object framework, and the city of Göteborg has allowed us to open source this framework. So it's actually available on GitHub right now. And also the backend I did for this is also open source. I was not able to put it on GitHub yesterday because my Wi-Fi at the hotel was terrible, so I will do that later today. And this is where they are at the moment. We haven't decided where to put them yet, so okay, thank you. Any questions about this?
Do you have integrated this with the undo stack?
With
Undo stack, so that you press undo and you get the value reverted?
yeah, the reverted. No, it's not integrated. It's pretty easy to do. Exactly. So no, but I haven't. It's not done yet. So there is we have a long list of options or add-ons we don't want to add to the frameworks, but not yet.
What about if you had that script that detects when the database is changed and it will migrate automatically? What if you need to put in some data migrations, some custom scripts to transform the data to the new?
Yeah, you can just turn off the validation and alteration of the database and do it all by yourself there. This is just convenient when you're doing development. It will just fix everything for you. So, and it doesn't do everything that you can do with the database. If you have a column and you change the type, it will not do that and so on. But sure, you can add your own scripts and so on for it.
When you turn off your auto commit,
Yeah.
does that mean that in the backend, in the framework, you keep a copy of each object, or does it really understand the original value versus the change value?
It keeps a record of the changes, so we don't keep the whole object. We just keep the changes of it. So we use the observer functionality in the Cappuccino framework to observe the different attributes of the different objects. So.
Do you always do a full fetch of even very large tables if you show them, or do you only fetch what is on the screen?
We have the framework is pretty competent. We have faulting and so on, so I didn't have time to show it, but I can actually just click in the interface builder. It has says to the array controller, use lazy fetching, and it will actually just fetch the primary key for every row of it of the table. So you can actually work with pretty large. I had a demo prepared, but I didn't have time here, with a table with over 100,000 rows, and I can fetch that into the to the application without any problems. It takes maybe 2-3 seconds, and then when I scroll down in the table view, it will fetch all the rows from the back end. So you can have large tables too. Works pretty well, amazingly well, really.
So does that kind of explain the added attributes you added in the entity model with the primary key and actually the organization primary key inside of the person?
You have to.
You actually use that.
No,
magic backend stuff.
Yeah, it's magic backend stuff. You can actually, in the relationship, you have user info in the model there. You can add a little bit more stuff. What is the foreign key for this and so on. But it will work automatically if you name it in the correct way, as I did here. So the primary key and the foreign keys and so on is not really used by this the model editor, because core data doesn't use the primary keys and so on. It just binds everything together. But yes, it's under there. So, any more questions?
If you have multiple users
Yeah.
checking your database,
Yeah.
is there a return check?
No, not at the moment. That's always the problem when you do multi-user stuff there. So there
I
is there.
was hoping you were going to say yes, because at the moment I do a timer check.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. You can. Yeah. There is many solutions, and usually the solution you should choose depends on your application, how it works, what kind of. Do a lot of people work on exactly the same data, or not? If they do, yeah, you have a problem. You have to do some kind of method to make sure everything works. So. But the good part with this framework is we're using that in the live application today, and we have a lot of users running it. So it's pretty stable. The backend I've done is I only used it here for this demo, but So I can't guarantee the stability on that yet, but hopefully we're going to be starting using that too. So.
If you have an error occurring while accessing the server, what does it react, the application reacts?
Right now, we are returning the JSON structure with the error. So it's the application will not. You will not see anything in the application right now. You can code it. What we've done is we put up a dialog box telling about the error, but you have to take care of that yourself. But you get the error. Everything is crystal clear. Okay, good. Let's have lunch then.